Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about coordination and response and the basic human nervous system. The key words that everyone should keep in mind are stimuli are basically the changes that occur in the external and internal environment of any organism and they are being detected constantly as they occur. Receptors are the cells that detect the stimuli. Effectors are those parts of the nervous system that respond to the stimulus, the change that is happening, by bringing about an appropriate action. This could either be a muscular contraction or a glandular secretion. Coordination ensures actions of different parts of the body are working together. Nerves are a group of axons lying together. Neurons, specialized cells that are conducting electrical impulses rapidly. They are divided into three parts. Dendrites are the short cytoplasmic fibers that receive impulses from other neurons. The cell body contains organelles that are present in any basic cell, like a cell membrane, nucleus, ribosomes, nucleoplasm, which is the cytoplasm of the neuron, and mitochondria, which provides energy for the transmission of impulses. The axon is the longest dendrite. It is a thin cytoplasm fiber which extends from the cell body of the neuron and is able to transmit the impulses to other neurons. So dendrites receive the impulses and axons are able to transmit that impulse to other neurons. Now there are two types of nervous systems. One being the central, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord and is made up of neurons which coordinate these impulses traveling through the nervous system. Peripheral nervous system, which are the nerves spreading out from the central nervous system. The cranial nerves come out of the brain and the spinal nerves come out from the spinal cord. Also contains receptors present in the sense organs. So this is a basic structure of the neuron. The reflex arc, a mechanism used by our bodies to carry out an automatic reaction to any stimuli which is needed for survival. When a change in a normal set of conditions occurs, receptors to that particular change are able to detect the stimuli and initiate an electrical impulse. This impulse then travels along the axon of a sensory neuron and reaches the spinal cord. There are several other relay neurons which receive the impulse in the spinal cord and pass it on to the brain. And the relay neurons also pass this impulse towards the site of response. This means that the brain also gets the impulse. The brain consciously realizes after the reaction has been done. The motor neuron transmits the impulse to the appropriate effector. Effector carries out the response. And this pathway along which a nerve impulse travels is the reflex arc, and it is coordinated only by the spinal cord. Reflex action means of automatically and rapidly integrating and coordinating stimuli with the response of effectors. It is basically the reaction that occurs after an impulse has traveled around the reflex arc. Very useful because they allow information to reach the effector from the receptor as quickly as possible. This reduces the harm caused by dangerous stimuli. For example, touching a red hot plate. They are automatic, they do not involve thought, so we do not waste time for using higher centers of our brain to consciously realize what is happening. Also, multiple stimuli are combined here to produce appropriate electrical impulses at the same time. Some examples of reflex actions is the knee jerk reflex. When you sharply tap below the knee, the thigh muscle quickly contracts, raising the lower leg. Coughing, yawning, and blinking are also some examples. What is a synapse? They are basically junctions between two neurons, a tiny gap allowing unidirectional flow of a nerve impulse. So here we can see this is the presynaptic neuron. It is one of many nerve endings of any axon. We can see that there are many vesicles at the end of the neuron which contain molecules of neurotransmitters. When the impulse passes through the axon, the vesicles move towards the end of the cell membrane. The vesicles fuse with the membrane, releasing neurotransmitter molecules into the synaptic gap, and is between an axon and a dendrite of another neuron. This is the membrane of a postsynaptic neuron and consists of receptor proteins. Neurotransmitter molecules diffuse across the gap, moving towards the receptor proteins. As the shape of the receptor protein is complementary to the shape of neurotransmitter molecules, binding occurs. This binding stimulates the impulse to travel along. Sense organs, receptor cells, which respond to specific stimuli. Each sense organ responds to a different stimuli, like the ear responding to sound, or the tongue to taste, and the eye to sight. The outermost part of the eye is a conjunctiva and protects all the parts that are behind the eye. When this membrane becomes inflamed, we call it conjunctivitis. Then comes the cornea, which is the part of the eye responsible for bending light rays that are entering. The aqueous humor here keeps the lens moist. The pupil is the gap in the middle of the iris, which is the colored part of the eye, contains muscles which can alter the pupil size. The lens allows the change of shape to focus light directly onto the retina, which is at the back of the eye. The inner part of the eye is filled with vitreous humor. The retina is the innermost tissue of the eye, contains receptors that respond to the light. The retina is the main tissue which contains receptor cells which are going to respond to the stimuli. Other parts of the eye are simply there to either protect the retina or to focus light onto it. The two receptor cells present in the retina are rods, which are activated when the light intensity is low, and because they do not respond to color, we only see black and white when it is dark. Cones, however, are activated when the light intensity is high and are able to respond to colored light. Fovea is a part of the retina which consists of the maximum concentration of cone cells, and light is focused here when you look directly at an object. The another part of retina is the blind spot, which contains no receptor cells, and it is the path from which the optic nerve leads. It's basically the nerve carrying electrical impulses from the retina to the brain for interpretation, creation of an image. Now, what is the iris reflex? Reflex, as you know, is an automatic response. An iris consists of muscles which allow alteration of the size of the pupil, a response to the change in light intensity. When the light intensity is high and you are in a brightly lit room, for example, the circular muscle will contract and the radial muscle will relax, causing the pupil to shrink. This protects the parts behind it, because if a lot of bright light enters at the same time, a great damage can be caused. When the light intensity is low, for example, in a dim lit room, the circular muscle will relax and radial muscle contracts, dilating the pupil, and more light rays are entering.